It was well past midnight when I got to the Walmart for my late-night shift. I always took the graveyard hours because it paid better, but honestly, it wasn't the money that kept me there. It was the silence. The store was almost empty at night, just the hum of fluorescent lights and the quiet shuffle of my boots on the linoleum floor. But that night felt different. The air was thick, like something was watching me, waiting. I tried to shake it off, maybe it was just the exhaustion kicking in. But when I walked past the back aisle where the cold storage units were kept, I noticed something odd. There was a man, not the kind of customer you'd expect at Walmart at this hour. He wasn't there to grab a late-night snack or pick up some toilet paper. This guy was just standing by the freezer section, staring at the rows of frozen food, but he wasn't moving. I tried not to look directly at him, thinking maybe he was just some weird customer, but there was something off about him. The way he didn't blink, didn't even seem to breathe. I kept walking, trying to ignore the feeling in my gut telling me something was wrong. As I rounded the corner, I caught a glimpse of him out of the corner of my eye. He was closer now. Too close. How had he moved so quickly? I could feel my heart pounding in my chest, but I forced myself to keep walking, pretending like everything was fine. That's when I heard it. A soft whisper, just loud enough for me to hear. "Do you want to know what happens in the back room?" Came from the man. I froze. Couldn't move. My feet were glued to the floor, my mind racing. The man hadn't moved, but his voice was as clear as if he was standing right next to me. I turned around slowly, trying to see if anyone else was nearby, but the aisle was empty. The man hadn't even shifted his position. He was still staring at the frozen food, his face expressionless, his body eerily still. I felt an uncomfortable twinge at the back of my mind, a sensation like I wasn't alone, like there was something far more sinister at play here. "Do you want to know what happens in the back room?" he repeated, his voice low, almost a breath. It wasn't an invitation. It was a command. I could feel my pulse quickening. I tried to shake it off, telling myself it was just some guy messing with me, trying to scare the night shift worker. I knew better than to engage with customers who acted like that. But something about his presence, the intensity of his eyes locked onto the rows of frozen meat, kept me rooted to the spot. "Don't go back there," he added, his voice now a rasp, almost a growl. "They're waiting." I swallowed hard, forcing myself to move. I turned and walked quickly down the aisle, hoping the guy would just leave me alone. But as I rounded the corner and reached the main aisle, I noticed something strange. The lights flickered for a second before going out completely, plunging the store into darkness. I froze again, heart thumping. It was then that I heard the footsteps. Slow, deliberate. Someone, or something, was moving through the aisles, footsteps growing louder with each passing second. The lights didn't come back on. I pulled out my phone and hit the flashlight button, the beam weak in the heavy blackness. That's when I heard it again, a whisper in the dark. "They're coming for you." Couldn't breathe. The whisper still echoed in my head as I slowly backed away, my phone's flashlight trembling in my hand. The footsteps were getting louder, like someone was moving closer, but I couldn't see anyone. The aisle ahead was completely empty. My heartbeat was hammering in my chest, and I could taste the fear on the back of my tongue. I had to get out of there. I turned, running toward the exit, my feet pounding against the floor. But as I reached the entrance, the automatic doors wouldn't open. I tried again. Nothing. I looked over my shoulder, and in that moment, I saw the man again, standing right at the entrance, as if he had always been there. His cold eyes locked onto mine, and he didn't move. I was trapped. I took a deep breath, trying to calm myself, but then something worse happened. The lights flickered again, and the soft hum of the fluorescent bulbs seemed to grow distorted, almost like a low growl. That's when I realized this wasn't just some random guy. He was part of something bigger, something far more terrifying. I had to get away. I turned back toward the aisle, but the man moved suddenly, faster than I thought possible. He was right behind me, his breath hot against my ear. "You should have never come back here," he whispered, and I felt his hand brush my shoulder. I spun around, pushing him away, But the moment I touched him, I felt a strange coldness, as if his skin wasn't even human. It sent a shiver up my spine. Panic flooded my system. I had to get to the back room. Maybe there was someone there. Someone who could help. I knew it was my only chance. I sprinted toward the employee's only door, my fingers fumbling for the keycard in my pocket. The door clicked open just as the lights flickered again, casting strange shadows across the walls. I was in the back room, but the atmosphere was wrong, thick with a heavy, suffocating air. The fluorescent lights hummed like a swarm of insects. But this time there was something else, something watching. The man's voice rang in my ear, now just a distant memory, but the presence of them was real. The hairs on my neck stood up. I wasn't alone. I turned to the back of the room, where the old storage units sat, dark and used for months. And that's when I saw it. The eyes, red, glowing, and they weren't alone. My heart nearly stopped as I stared at the red eyes, glowing faintly in the shadows at the far end of the storage room. It was like they were waiting for me, following my every move, and I couldn't look away. I stepped back slowly, my breath shallow, my hands trembling as I reached for the door to bolt it shut. But the moment my fingers touched the handle, the lights above me flickered violently, and the room plunged into complete darkness. I spun around, trying to make sense of the now pitch-black space. I could feel something moving, shifting in the dark. Too many shadows, too many things. I heard whispers, like 1,000 voices murmuring just beneath the surface, incomprehensible, but all of them urging me to stay. Something cold brushed against my leg. I jumped, heart pounding as I swung my flashlight in the direction of the movement. The beam landed on a figure. A pale, emaciated thing, crouching low to the ground, its body unnaturally bent in ways that didn't seem human. Its skin was white as bone, its eyes completely black except for the faint red glow that mirrored the ones I had seen earlier. I couldn't move. The creature stared at me, its mouth slowly opening as though savoring the terror on my face. And then, just as quickly as it had appeared, it disappeared into the shadows, leaving nothing but an empty, chilling silence behind. But I could feel it. It was still there, watching me, waiting. I turned, desperately trying to find a way out. But when I reached the back door, it wouldn't open. Panic set in. I banged on it with my fists, shouting for help. No response. I pounded harder, but the only sound was the hollow echo of my fists hitting the door. And then I heard it. A sound like scraping metal on metal, coming from behind me. I whirled around, and that's when I saw them. Dozens of eyes, all red, all watching, crawling out from the cracks in the walls, from beneath the shelves. They were everywhere. The creatures were everywhere. They weren't just in the shadows anymore. They were moving toward me. I backed away, my breath coming in sharp gasps, my hands slipping on the cold metal of the doorframe. There was no way out. The creatures were closing in. My body was frozen in terror, every instinct screaming at me to run, but there was nowhere to go. The last thing I saw was the shadow of something much larger, its massive form slowly rising from the corner, a dark shape that swallowed the light, blocking my escape. And then, nothing. I don't remember exactly how long I was in that room. Time seemed to bend, stretch, and warp in a way that made no sense. Felt like hours, maybe days, but I knew it couldn't have been that long. I was trapped, locked in a cold, suffocating darkness, with creatures closing in around me. Their eyes never left me. The air felt thick, like I was breathing in something foul and ancient, something that wasn't supposed to exist in the real world. I could still hear the scraping sounds, footsteps, like nails dragging across the concrete floor. Something large was moving. I could feel the tremor in the ground as it shuffled forward, and the whispering. The whispering was constant now. The words I couldn't understand, but I could feel their weight, the danger in them. And then, in the dark, I saw it. A figure emerged from the farthest corner of the room. A man, no, a thing that looked like a man, but not quite. Its skin was pale and stretched thin, its face hollow, with eyes that glowed the same menacing red as the creature's. But this one was different. It was taller, its body unnaturally long, limbs stretched beyond human proportions. It stepped forward with a slow, deliberate gait, the red eyes locking onto mine. For a moment, everything went silent. The whispering stopped. Even the creatures seemed to hold their breath. Then, in a voice that was barely a whisper, it spoke. "You shouldn't have come here." The words chilled me to the bone. The voice was like 1,000 nails scraping on glass, jagged and sharp. But there was something else to it. Something familiar. I couldn't place it, but it felt like it knew me. Like it had been waiting for me. "You were meant to leave," it continued, its voice growing more distorted, as if the words were coming from deep within a cave. "But now that you've seen us, now that you've heard us, you can never leave." The room grew colder. My body shook with fear, every muscle in my legs begging me to run, but my feet wouldn't move. I was paralyzed, caught in its gaze. The creature stepped closer, its breath coming out in slow, rasping gasps. I could smell the decay on it, a stench so foul it made me gag. It raised its hand, long, spindly fingers, reaching for my face. And just when I thought it was over, when I thought it would rip me apart right there in the darkness, something happened. The lights flickered back on, bright, blinding. The fluorescent bulbs above buzzed to life, casting harsh, sterile light across the back room. The creatures, they shrank back. The one in front of me froze in place, its red eyes dimming. The grip of terror loosened, just enough for me to make a break for it. I ran. I don't know how. I don't know what happened to the things in that room. I don't know why they didn't chase me, but I ran, heart pounding, adrenaline flooding my system, crashing through the aisles until I found myself back at the front of the store. The doors, which had once been locked, opened as if they had been waiting for me. I stumbled outside into the cold night air, gasping for breath, my body shaking uncontrollably. I never went back to that Walmart. I don't know if anyone else ever worked the late-night shifts there again. But I do know one thing for sure. Whatever was waiting in the back room, it's still there, watching, and I don't think I was meant to make it out. It's been a few months since that night, and I've tried to forget. But you don't just walk away from something like that. Not without it following you. I quit my job at Walmart right after. There was no way I could go back. No way I could stand the thought of that place, that room, them lurking just beyond the threshold. I tried to tell myself it was all a nightmare, some kind of hallucination brought on by exhaustion. But every time I closed my eyes, I could still hear the whispering. I could still feel the cold hand brushing against my shoulder, the eyes watching me from the dark corners of my room. I tried to move on. I found a new job. I moved to a new city, but the fear, the dread, never left me. It was like I had brought something back with me, something I couldn't shake off. A few weeks ago, I made the mistake of going into a Walmart again. I wasn't planning on it. I just needed a few things, and the store was the closest. But as soon as I walked through those automatic doors, I froze. I could feel it. The air was heavier, the shadows deeper. It was like the walls were closing in on me. My heart started racing, and I could hear the faintest whisper, just on the edge of my hearing. The same voice. "Did you really think you could escape?" I bolted for the exit, but as I turned toward the door, something stopped me. In the reflection of the glass, I saw it. The same red eyes, glowing in the darkness of the aisles, staring at me. I don't know how long I stood there, paralyzed by fear. Time seemed to stop again, like it had back in the store that night. And then, just like that, it vanished. The eyes, the shadows, they were gone. But I knew they were still there, waiting. And the worst part? I think they follow me. I think they always will.